Hello there, beautiful friend. I'm your host, Kaya, a cattle rancher turned accidental life coach after embarking on my own health journey, losing over 100 pounds, but most importantly, rebuilding my relationship with myself. Now, I am more on fire than ever to empower others to create a healthy life that they love from the inside out by sharing the tools, tips, and strategies that I've learned and continue to learn along the way. Mindset, health, body image, self-love, entrepreneurship, and more. We're here to chat about climbing the mountains of life, all while finding joy in the journey. Welcome to the Climbing with Coach Kaya podcast. Now, let's get climbing. Hello, my beautiful friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Climbing with Coach Kaya podcast. Today's guest, I have been honestly giddy about this guest since I booked her because I have been Instagram stalking her for months, maybe over a year now. I can't even remember how I first discovered her. I think someone shared another account who maybe became a client of hers. Needless to say, I have been a number one fan ever since. And I say this is the measure of how much of a fan I am. I enjoy getting her emails every week. Now, I want you to think about this. How many emails do you get every week that you just delete without actually reading them? Most of them. Let's be honest with ourselves, right? Except mine. Of course, you like my emails. But Hillary's emails are what I look most forward to every single week. And I'm not exaggerating, okay? So let's jump into the good stuff. Hillary Weiss Presswood is a creative director, positioning coach, and founder of Statement Piece Studio at HillaryWeiss.com. She also co-hosts the cult favorite YouTube marketing talk show, Hillary and Margot Yell at Websites. #HamYah, and had her work featured on Business Insider, The Next Web, The Observer, and more. Since 2011, she's helped thousands of brands all over the world get seen and heard and make some serious cash through her one-on-one client work, writing, coaching, and videos. Nowadays, she's on a mission to help more small businesses define their statement piece, aka the bold point of view that makes them radically relevant to their perfect people. Do you want to know more? Catch her riffs on all of the above on her blog or say what's up to her on Instagram at HCWeiss. That's HCWEISS. Without further ado, let's welcome Hillary to the show. Welcome to the show, Hillary.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I need to edit this in my bio. Our beloved Hillary and Margot Yell at Websites is on indefinite hiatus at the moment, so I guess I'm technically a former co-host. But it is such a pleasure and privilege to be here. I've been counting down the days to this interview because the stalking has been mutual. So I'm just so excited.
Well,
oh my goodness, we're
so honored. Oh, I'm so honored. Hillary, man, I just feel like you're one of those people. When I discovered you, I was like, I need more of her. That is the energy that I want to surround myself with in this world or on the gram because we live very far away from each other. Now, before we jump into the good stuff, I want to hear more about you. For people that are maybe hearing about you for the first time, and also just selfishly, I want to hear more about your story. So tell me how you got into this line of work. Tell me about you being what you told me before the show as a swamp flower. Like, I just want to hear all the things, Hillary.
Like most children, I was born. And then after that, I started a business. There's some stuff happened in between. It's actually a pretty long story. So I'll give you guys the spark notes, obviously. But I got my start in the industry very young. I was 21. This was back in 2011. I was like a little tiny baby, but I actually got my start as a copywriter. And I got my start in like the coaching, creativity, and lifestyle space. And I had always been a writer since I was like a teeny tiny little child. So it was really a shock to me that this industry even existed, that I could get paid for being creative, let alone doing what I enjoyed so much, which was writing, my first love. And so I spent about 10 years in that category of the industry, and I worked across all types of businesses. I did some work in SaaS. I've done work in tech. I stayed in the coaching world because I love it as well. Also designers, fellow copywriters I was working with. It was just so much fun to be working with creatives just across the board, because that's one of the things I've always delighted in about this line of work is I get to be a creative's creative, which makes me just very happy. And so about 3 years before I officially retired from copywriting, so this would have been 2017, I started setting my sights on the bigger picture. And I was like, okay, what do I actually want to be doing? Because copywriting is wonderful, but it teaches you so many amazing skills. So I had all this brain full of information. I had all this strategic support insight I was giving away for free. Because when you're a copywriter and someone's actually don't know how the offer is going to work, you're like, okay, let's fill in these blanks, or I actually don't know who my audience is. Okay, let's do some research. So I had, again, all these skills from my time, in the copy world, because again, a copywriter, what's so interesting about being a copywriter generally is you get to be on the inside hull, like the engine room of a ship. You have a full
Mhm.
scale of what's going on. So I learned so much working with the beginner brands, my multi 7-figure folks, $1 million launches type thing. I just learned so much. So in 2017, I was like, I think I want to go bigger with this. And overall brand strategy, positioning, and creative direction was where I really wanted to go. So I ended up doing quite a bit of work before I made the transition. I retired in 2020. And now what I do most of the time, it's actually fascinating because it's like 50-50. I have a positioning, coaching, and consulting side of the business, where we do
Mhm.
positioning and brand strategy for creative service providers and business owners and just my consultants, my marketing crew, all of those folks. And then on the other side, I do creative direction for a big range of brands, where we're doing the visual direction, the brand strategy, photo shoots, overseeing website design and development. So that's what I do now. And it's a delight. And every day, especially when I'm on set running around, like hauling a bunch of ball pit balls into a bathtub, I'm like, man, this is a very silly little job. And I'm very happy I get to do it. And then aside from that, obviously, I love to write. Thank you so much for reading my emails. Still love to write. I'm on Instagram. I create a lot of content. And I like talking about the experience of business as and personal branding, especially as the ultimate form of creative expression. Like, how do we get to the guts of that? A big part of my job is getting to the guts of what things really mean and turning that
Mhm.
into messaging strategy, visual brand, positioning strategy, etc. That really works for people and is really unique. And it's just such a
Mhm.
joy for me to do. And I can't believe this is my job. So I'm just happy to be here. It's an honor just to be nominated.
I I love it. I love it so much, and I feel like, okay, I have also been one of those people where I am in Hillary's DMs all the time saying, "I'm gonna be your next client. I'm gonna be your next client. I'm gonna be your next
It's
client."
amazing.
And this is the thing I want to ask you, because
Yeah.
there's could be some people listening to this who maybe they're a small business, maybe they're established business, and they're intrigued by what you're saying, and they might be asking themselves, When do I even need a copywriter? When do I even need a strategic positioning coach? What does that mean?"
That's such a great question, because positioning coaching did not exist. And I was like, this seems to be what I'm doing. So now it's just a phrase that's we put a label on. But in terms of the tipping point, I find so I did work with very early business owners and I love that crew, but my people are more in that, I guess, middle to upper tier, where you've been doing business one way for a while, you've learned so much, but now you're ready to make some kind of pivot, some kind of adjustment.
Mhm,
Either you realize you want to be doing like a higher tier of work. So we have to figure out, and as a creative director, like you find out you want to do a higher tier of work, you want to be on a bigger stage, you want to be attracting a higher tier of client. That's when you want to consider brand overhaul. That's when you want to consider a high concept visual brand, all of those things that kind of build that instant trust, because your current brand has brought you as far as you can, as it
mhm,
can. Then a lot of folks I work with have websites that are still from 5, 7, even 10 years ago. And they're like,
mhm,
it's time. It's actually past time. And then on the positioning side, actually, my positioning consulting started to help people in the position I was when I was ready to make my transition. And I designed it originally for creative service providers who were ready to stop doing hand to mouth contract work. They were like,
mhm,
okay, so I could do these deliverables. I know I've got this, but I have a bigger, better strategy brain. I know I want to be actually focusing my energy here. I want to be a creative director, and eventually I want to be a brand strategist. I want to be a messaging strategist. I want to be direct overseeing a team. How do I do this in a way that I can frame the business? So either A, if this is what you're looking for, that it's people know it's not just me, or that it's not going to be just me forever. Or B, how do I frame this in a way that people start seeing me in this new way, and I can
mm,
start building my thought leadership brand, showing up more with these distinct ideas, really putting myself out there in a way that if I want to teach, speak, whatever it may be, I have this platform that I've created for myself. Because I think there's a lot of stuff for the beginners and there's a lot of stuff for the really advanced people, not a
mhm.
lot of stuff for the people who are like middle to advanced. A lot
Ah,
of my folks in the positioning, people are a little bit earlier, creative direction, people are a little bit more further along just for budget reasons and all of that. But I find they're all at a turning point where they can't see the forest for the trees. They've come
mhm,
as far as they possibly can with
mhm,
their own knowledge and their own guidance. And now they need a strategist to sit, get in the muck with them, roll up their sleeves, figure out what's actually going on, how they really see things, what's their distinct point of view, what's their distinct concept, what makes them so interesting. and
Yeah.
compelling to other people. So that's where I step in and get to work.
Okay, this is so good because I hear you and I'm like, she's literally describing me right now. Did I bring her on the podcast so that I can finally be
Uh-huh.
convinced that I need to hire her? Maybe. It might
This,
be.
this is a sales call,
This
everybody.
is actually a recorded sales call that y'all are invited to listen to. No, there's 2 things that you shared there that really stood out to me. The first one was this phrase where I'm gonna say it differently, but essentially, what got you to this point is not gonna be what gets you to the next point. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of early entrepreneurs, I know this is true for myself, are bootstrappers, right? You have more time than you have money, so you do
Mhm.
a lot of this stuff yourself. But in order to elevate yourself to the next level or to transition, sometimes it's going to take some outside perspective. And then the second thing that really struck me as you talked about this is that so many of the people that you're working with on strategy and positioning are strategists themselves. And what I think is interesting about this is some of the work that I do, consulting wise and freelance, is I help people with strategy as well. However, feel like I'm hitting my head against a wall when it comes to my own strategy. Like therapists need therapists, coaches need coaches, and strategists need strategists. So, my question for you is this, Hillary. Sometimes it is hard for us to know what the heck makes us so special and unique, right? Because we live with ourselves every single day. It
Mhm.
all feels normal and natural. How do you help people discover and distill what their secret sauce is?
I can't give all of that away on the podcast. No, it's a common problem because even the best creatives, it's impossible to read the label from inside the bottle, right? And for me, this is going to be a headline on my new site, which everybody tells me, which is, I need you to do for me what I do for my clients. And I'm like, welcome, friend. But I think, so in terms of how I approach it, it's every client is so different. And this is the joy of the work. Like I have worked with multiple people who are in identical categories, even working with very similar audiences, but there's some incredibly powerfully unique thing about them that we suss out. And a big part of that process, of course, with any sort of good consulting or coaching relationship, it requires just asking some of the important questions, asking the right question, and also coming at it with, frankly, and this is going to sound a little esoteric, but or not esoteric, but a little maybe not woo, but true, where it's just you have to get really curious. And that's a really joyful part of my work because I get in with a client and I have probably an idea of what I think I would want, what I would want to do, or where I think they could go. But time and time again, when I sit down with the client and I'm asking the questions and we're going through things, I find out how they feel about the business, about the kind of the way they want to work, the people they love working with most, the style they really enjoy when it comes to what they do, how they show up in their day-to-day life. What can they be always counted on for by their friends and family? All of these things matter so, so much. And it's such an interesting point we're at now with the online space getting so much bigger in the last 2 or 3 years. What's been really interesting is I feel like there's never been such a big population of people where we are both the face of the business and the product. So I think this is a
Yeah.
really interesting time for personal branding to really mature. It was always seen as like a fluffy, oh, your personal brand, who cares? So for me, when I'm developing these concepts, they're largely for personal brands where brands that are personality focused or have one or two people at the head as a figurehead. And what's so important is being able to infuse that personality that makes
Mhm.
that person magnetic and exciting and fun to follow with the strategy of what's going to get the business where they want to go. And that's really the joyful challenge because you have to strike just the right chord and
Mhm.
everything falls into place. And what's the most important end point of my work is making sure the client is bought in and the
Mhm.
client gets it. Because I've seen in like people come to me with all types of branding experiences. Some have none, some have had spent inhuman amounts of money on coaches and brand strategists and all of this in the past, and it didn't quite work. And I think I'm not here to shit on anybody else's or poop on anybody else's the process, who I can swear on here or not. I didn't have.
You can.
But excellent. But it is interesting because I'm a big believer in slow branding for this reason. Like it is a fairly long process. Like at the baseline, we're doing 6 sessions or we're doing this digging because I want my clients to get it as much as I do. Because sometimes you can be handed a brand concept, an idea, a framing of your business, and you're like,
Mhm.
this isn't quite right. But like, here I am and I spent all this money, dot
Mhm.
question mark. What do we do? And so at every step of the way, we're making sure, okay, try this on. Does this feel right? Do we need to adjust it?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think too, a big part of my job is not when I get pushback, not to say either, no, you're wrong. It's gotta be this or, yep, done. I'm just going to dissolve, but to help them to discuss the idea with them, to delve deeper, to have my reasons for why we're going in certain directions, share that with them, see what comes back, and then move accordingly because this is what shapes brands, the brands that I work on into just really powerful forces of nature that people aren't afraid to own and evolve over
Mm.
time, which is the sign of every great personal brand, I think.
I think that is so powerful, and I love that you focus on that with your clients because I think there's so many people that think that a brand or branding is a logo, some headshots, a website, but I
Indeed.
love that you talk about they have to be bought into it themselves because what I've found too, even in my personal business is when I'm positioning myself on a new offer, how well it sells or doesn't sell has less to do with how pretty my graphics are and has more to do with the energy in which I sell it with. And so if I'm not bought
Yes.
in to the offer, if I'm not clear on it, it's going to flop. And I don't think that people get to the heart of that work as much as they might need to.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's to a certain point, and this is what's also interesting. 'Cause I get a lot of questions about this because I'm a copywriter who became a creative director, and by and large, we have designers who become creative directors in this space. So I get DMs like at least once a week from non-designers being like, "I want to be a creative director. What happened? Like, how'd you get here?" So it's a great question, but I think it in copywriting, you're forced to really understand from a deep strategic level why you're using a certain style, while you're using certain phrases, while you're using this specific strategy. Whereas in design, it's that, but the education you get in the field as a copywriter is just different in terms of how you understand concepts and how they thread through every piece of the business. At least
Mm.
for me, I would say I
Mhm.
can't, no experience is universal, but when I talk to copywriters, I think this is the case. And I think like when and also there's a certain place for a brand that's colors and fonts and a logo and some
Mhm.
headshots, and that's when you're beginning. I get
Yeah.
asked about this all the time because people are like, "Oh, or don't look at my website. It's so bad. I'm just new, blah blah blah." And I'm like, first of all, the website looks great. Show it Squarespace A+ templates, looking good, looking sharp. And when you are beginning, when you don't really know what your
Yeah.
distinctive factor is, you're just trying to put up a storefront. Heck yeah,
Mhm.
like hell yeah, you do your fonts, do your colors, beautiful. Just do something you like and get
Yeah.
started.
Mm.
But once you reach a certain point where you want to take the business somewhere beyond just exchanging effort for money, if you want to be a brand, if you want to have that platform, speak, teach, whatever, then that's when the high concept brand, that's when the more detailed, the more granular, the more you got to understand it and feel it and integrate it into yourself at a deep level. That's where that gets to be really important because you got to run with it. You want a brand that you're proud of. You want ideas that you can really own and like pitch to media or really friendly podcast guests. And all of these podcast hosts, excuse me, and all these things kind of factor in. So I think when there are levels to brands. I think the base
Mm.
level, fonts, colors, photos, there's a place for that. Yeah, hell yeah,
Yeah.
get it done. But when you want something very specific, to do something
Mhm.
very specific with the business, with your vision, with your
Mhm.
presence, then that's where high concept comes in and makes a lot of sense. Because again, when you understand not just who the audience is, what they want, and what you offer, but also what's the visual language that ties in with all this? Why did
Mhm.
we choose these colors and fonts? What is the underlying mission in all of this? What's the concept that's guiding everything?
Mhm.
That's where stuff really gets powerful and unforgettable in a way you need it to when you want to build something bigger.
Makes so much sense. What I'm hearing is, friends, if you are out there and you just have a logo, and maybe you don't even have a logo yet, logo, fonts, and colors, you're killing it. You're doing great. And that's a beautiful place to begin. No, such a good reminder because I think that we also, okay, this is how I imagine. I don't know if this is your experience, but as you're talking about this, what I imagine is you onboard a new client and it's like a person going into the doctor's office. Like the first thing they feel like they need to do is apologize for all the things that they didn't do. Like I just did it this week with my dentist. Every time I go to the dentist, I'm like, Lisa, I know we talked about flossing last time, but I just need to get it off my chest. Like, I need to apologize. And I imagine onboarding clients with you. You're like, listen, I know my website is not amazing.
every every single time, yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry. Also, because all my people are type A or type A++, so they're also like, and I don't think I filled out the onboarding form correctly, and I blah 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 blah. And you're kind of going there. I'm like, okay, welcome. This is exactly a good starting point. Because again, we're all a little neurotic out here on these internet
Sure.
streets. It's why we're entrepreneurs, right? But yeah, it
Right.
is. You nailed it. That's so funny. Yeah, 100% of the time, that does indeed.
Oh my gosh, too funny. Okay, so if someone is coming to your website right now, Hillary, or to your Instagram, I imagine they're gonna see some bold colors, some super fun photography, disco balls everywhere. Seriously, y'all need to just go peruse her website, okay? It is
I'm
like
hanging.
very bold and bright. And I would say, from what I know of her, completely matches her personality. My question for you, if you don't mind going into the way back machine, have you always been so sure of yourself and your own positioning? Or what does that journey look like for you as a brand?
Oh, I love this question. No, of course not. First of all, I started off as a tiny baby in these streets, and
Was it just fonts and a logo and some
yeah,
colors?
so this is actually really funny. So if you all, you sweet listeners, go to Hamya on YouTube, HAMYAW, our first episode, you will see me roasting my first ever website.
Ooh, I need to
And
go
it
back
is
and
a
watch this.
silly website, let me tell you. I was partnering with a designer at the time as a business partner, still a dear friend of mine. And she put up her website in a day. And I just remember being like, okay, what do people seem to want? What am I always seeing? And this was, I don't know if any of y'all, if any of your good listeners remember or were around in the space for this era, but this was like the cozy internet era. This was on the blogosphere, like the craft blogs were really big and like A Beautiful
Mhm.
Mess was really huge. And so it was like a lot of like soft pinks and seafoam
Yes.
greens and
Yes.
yellows and like curly cute fonts. And like I had like sunflowers at the top border and it was fine, but it
Yeah.
was so girly because I was in a female led space. And I'm
Yeah.
really like, I'm very feminine, but am I
Yeah.
like super girly? Like necessarily. I got a lot of that. I love my feminine. I love my masculine. I'm a good blend. But I just remember thinking like, oh, what do the people want? Okay, soft colors. I got to be non-threatening because I'm a big personality, and that's actually an interesting piece of it too. Because it was a lot of okay, water it down. Because
Yes.
I was born, and I talk about this a lot. I was born with a Godzilla of a personality. It came with the package. It's a feature, not a bug. I was very tiny, maybe very large. I came out screaming, and I haven't shut up since. But it's so when I was in business, I was like, nobody's going to want some like crazy loudmouth lunatic 21-year-olds working on
Mhm.
their company. They're going to want somebody who fits the mold. So I think I had a white button down and like a straw boater hat. And I just looked very like, very soft, very
Yeah.
hello, good to meet you. And I made like a really silly joke on the homepage that was like, by day, I'm a copywriter doing really cool words for like online business owners. And by night, I'm still all those things. It's just dark outside. So that was really pleased with that little joke on my own homepage. But then after that, I had that site for 3 or 4 years. I was like, it was one of those things where I was like, don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at me. We're good. Okay. It's not really me. Anyway. And so I did a rebrand again. I want to say 2015 or 2016. So this is a few years later. And that was a very different vibe. It was like, so I called it, I think this was again, it wasn't high concept. Like this was just colors and fonts. And so I was like, the style, I want it to be Nasty Gal Goes to Brooklyn. Cause this was like peak
Ooh,
Nasty Gal.
love that.
Peak, yes, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking
What
about.
a pivot. What a pivot.
I know. Nasty Gal was still good quality before Boohoo bought him out. Anyway, I still have some of those like original pieces in my closet. That's like what am in Sophia. But so it was like very angular and I went total opposite to what I'd done. So it was like very sharp angles, no like soft edges. It was very geometric. I was like navy blue, powder blue, and like a nude and white. And it was just really in your face, very bold, a little bit edgy, elegant. And I did like a buddy of mine shot me, or not, excuse me, photographed me like a Terry Richardson style against the white wall with the high exposure, which was very hot at the time. Even though
Yes.
Terry Richardson's a terrible person, let's acknowledge that before we move on. And so that felt very Brooklyn to me, felt very edgy. And people started seeing that brand and things started to pick up. People were like, oh, okay, this girl knows her stuff. And I'd already been doing okay behind the scenes, but that's when people really started to take notice and take me seriously because I had a brand. And then I hung out with that brand for a few years. And then I ended up, the vision for my current brand actually formed really slowly. It started, so the disco balls were because of what a coach had said to me at one point where I was working on a copywriting course and I'd written a sales page for it. And it was like the most stodgy. I'd looked around at what everyone else was doing and I was like, what do people care about? Okay, copywriting that converts. All right. So I'm going to just feature that. And then not good copywriter behavior, by the way. Don't do that. Is everybody listening to this? Do not do it that way. But I ended up with a very buttoned up, stuffy sales page that checked all the boxes and was correct from a strategic standpoint. But my
Mhm.
coach at the time had looked at it and she was like, Hillary, respectfully, whose sales page is this? And I was like, what? And she was like, this is not you. I've seen this sales page 100 times. This is not your sales page. I need you to put your disco dress on and
Ooh.
rewrite and let's try this again. And I was like, Okay, you can't say it, but I'm minding tears. I was upset. I worked on that thing, but she was 100% right. Erica Learmark, by the way, great human being, great coach. And so that was where the disco balls came from. And disco ball light bulbs were like a logo for my first copywriting course, which is long retired. So we brought that over. And then for me, it was because I'm a zag when they zig kind of gal. And I remember looking around at the industry. I was like, okay, what colors are popular right now? What's going on? And this was I think the actual rebrand launched in 2018 or 2019. So this would have been 2017, 2018. It was a lot of, everything was rose gold, remember? I
Yes,
was,
yes.
I know a lot of deep purples and like all these
Mhm,
things. And it was beautiful, but I was like, you know what? I don't see anybody using primary colors. You know what I
mhm.
like? Primary colors. I'm like, but how do I do this without making it look like a kindergarten? But nobody else was using them. And the more I thought about it, and the more just like I learned about Mondrian, who's the artist who also inspired my red, yellow, blue, is that this abstract artist, Mondrian, distilled everything down to its core essence, which is these three colors, red, yellow, blue.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God, that's what I'm doing with my work. So bit by bit, pieces came together. And I had the vision in my head. I directed photo shoots before, but at the time I did Sarah Ashman's mirror brand. It was the beta, the first time she'd ever run the course. So I jumped in and used that to figure out the name Statement Piece Studio. And she ended up helping me do my first photo shoot and then a couple more after that to bring it across the finish line. The ones you see now are all directed by me because obviously it's been years, but
Uh-huh.
it was just so much fun to put those pieces together slowly. And then ultimately, Sarah started mentoring me in creative direction and I did her certification down the line. I don't think she offers it anymore, but it's a part of the story. But so that's how the brand came to be. And Statement Piece Studio, it just makes a lot of sense because I was like, wait a minute, because this was the question that Sarah asked in Mirror Brand. What is something that you could always be counted on to be doing? Like, how do you show up to brunch? What do your friends always know is going to be happening when you rock up? And I was like, I'm always wearing a statement piece of clothing or jewelry,
Mm,
like always,
mhm.
because again, I'm a talker. So I want you to be either immediately turned off by me or immediately intrigued. That way I know who to talk to and who I'm working with here. And so then branding works in much the same way, right? Like you present a
Yeah.
brand, you put yourself out there to attract, to magnetize your ideal people and repel the people you don't
Mhm.
want. So it all just fits together really beautifully. And now that it's been years of owning it and years of just loving my brand for what it is and also getting lots of compliments, but it doesn't hurt. But it was, and just owning it. And I'm even working on a website redesign now, but I'm keeping all my colors. Like the colors, the disco balls, they're here to stay, but it's been such a joyful experience in ownership over colors and ideas because people send me disco ball stuff. People send me red, yellow, and blue stuff to my DMs, like again, like daily. They're like, you got,
Yeah.
and it's sometimes it's like the same product over and over. So I'm like, I just got to buy this so people's stuff sent to me. But I love it. And it's such a fun way to stay connected. And the fact that people like will be out in the world, all over the world, and think of me when they see red, yellow, blue. Like it's been
Mm.
such a joyful experience in experiencing that sense of ownership and that
Yeah.
growth. And people always ask me, how do I develop a brand with the kind of staying power that yours has and the kind of brand that people will see it and think of me? And what it really is, yes, it's distinct ideas, high concept, great photos, all these things, but it's ownership. It's showing
Yeah.
up and putting your brand colors out there and again and talking about the same sort of things and being upfront with your style and being yourself so you stay consistent, all of these things. So it's just been a beautiful journey of not only like developing the original idea, but also sticking around and staying visible long enough to really own it.
Ooh,
And that's really where the work is.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Long answer to that question.
No,
Sorry.
I love it, and honestly, if I could love your brand anymore, I didn't think I could, but, like, knowing that and understanding the distilling it down to its primary pieces, like, that is perfect, like, it makes
I know.
so much sense. Now, there is a word that came up for you as you're sharing this story several times, and it's one of my favorite words. It's actually in the tagline of this podcast,
Oh my,
and it's joyful. I feel like I've heard you say the
yes.
word joy and joyful a lot lately. And I'll be honest with you, right now in this phase of business that I'm in right now, I feel very scattered. And
Yeah.
I know that a lot of that is that I'm a very multi-passionate person and I say yes to way too many things. Let's be clear there. But I've been feeling a little bit like, okay, how do I bring the joy back into my brand? And from what outside looking in at the work that you do with all of your clients, I don't think I've ever seen a client working with you that isn't just full of joy. Like your photo shoots, I'm just like, I want to be in the room. I don't even care if I'm the one in the front of the camera. I just feel like you have this beautiful
Thank
way
you.
of bringing people's unique joy
Thank
back
you.
into their
Yeah.
brand. And I think it's easy for us to lose that when we're in like the trenches of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. 100%. And I think there's always ups and downs, right? There's no business is gonna feel super happy, clappy, super fun time all the time.
Mhm.
But I'm so glad that too, because joy is such a big part of my work. Like my name literally means cheerful. I'm a joy ho. I just will run and chase it every turn. And it's so important. And thank you so much for reflecting that back to me about photo shoots, because it's actually really important as a creative director. You control the energy in the room. And
Yeah.
I'm a very high energy person. And it's interesting because you have clients coming in and they're not models. And they're all stunning, by the way. And all
Yeah.
of my clients are so gorgeous. Then it's so much fun for us to do when they get to feel like a queen and there's wardrobe and all of
Mhm.
that. But you come, like a lot of people aren't comfortable in front of a camera. You know,
For
doing a
sure.
photo shoot is confronting. It's difficult.
Mhm.
All of your body stuff comes in with you, and every woman has that. So for me, a big part of the experience is yes, hyping up the client. But again, this is where the concept comes in, because if you keep them connected to that thing, which is based on who they truly are, their talents, their joy, and we're sharing that message in the room, it gives them something to focus on. And
Mhm.
then that's when all the upliftment. Yeah, I have a great team too. We're a bunch of hype girls, and we mean every word of it too, which is why it
Yeah.
works. But we're just in the room having a great time. We're coming up with fun concepts. We have concepts with us, excuse me. But we're experimenting, we're playing, and our job is, excuse me, to make it as joyful of an experience as possible. But I
Mhm.
think again, to your point, the joy in business, it's like a light, it's like a dimmer sometimes. And sometimes you don't notice when the
Mhm.
light has gone down. I have a USB charged makeup mirror in my room, and sometimes it doesn't last very long. It's not very good. And so sometimes I'll be most of the way done through my makeup and I realize I can't see. Oh, it's fading. I need to plug this into the
Mhm.
charger.
Yeah.
So sometimes you won't, and joy in business is much the same, where you're just working so much that sometimes you look around and you realize your joy light is just dim.
Mhm.
And so for me, and that's, and to me, it happens to everybody, especially this time last year, I hit like a major wall in business. And I was like, is this still going to work? How are we going to live? But obviously, it was not that serious, but your brain always goes to the worst case
Of
scenario.
course, of course.
But for me, I think that feeling that the joy bulb is dimmer, there's two things to do. Like one, you got to look around and figure out like what's zapping that battery. And it could be a way that you're working with people. It could be a type of client you're working with. It could be one or two specific people, either on your team, in your orbit, on your client roster, who you're like, wait a second, this person is taking so much more energy from me than I'm receiving from that process. And that's always an interesting crossroads to be at too, because I think some of us, especially the more determined among us, will sometimes have a client who's an energy zapper, and our response is actually to pour more into, just to be like,
Mhm.
okay, actually, if I could, their tank is just low. So if I pour more in, then something will happen. And sometimes it works, but sometimes there's a hole at the bottom of their bucket. And so really assessing what are the things that you need to stop doing, who in your path seems to be draining that energy, that joy bulb. And then second, it's really paying close attention to the stuff that brings you joy, like the work that you really relish that doesn't feel like sometimes it will always feel like work, but doesn't really feel like work, keeps you in
Mhm.
that flow space, lights you up. What are you looking forward to doing every day? And that is just such an important place to plant your flag. And that's always my barometer. If I'm not having fun, something is wrong. Like, why
Yeah,
am I
yeah.
in business if I'm not having a good time in the way I want to have a good time? And I've certainly worked hard to have the privilege of being able to make those choices. Not everybody does, depending on what phase of business they're
Sure.
in. But I find the joy piece, and I'm sure this is why you talk about it too, and why it's in the tagline. It's the engine. It's the gasoline. Some people do this work for the clout. Some people do it for the money. And we all do it for the money. Let's be real. Some people do it for there's all so many reasons that are fueling what moves your business forward. But for me, joy is always at the crux of it. Because if I am enjoying myself and having a great time, things are easy. If I am not and I'm hating my life, everything very quickly collapses in on itself. I
Mm.
know which portion I try to stick to, that's for sure. Maybe it's the same for you. Do you feel similarly about the little joy engine?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, this at the beginning of this year, I created 4 guideposts for me in life and in business,
Amazing.
and one of those 4 was follow your joy. And,
Yes.
and I just feel like I'm all about this idea of no emotions are bad emotions, all emotions are here to
Yeah.
tell us something, right? And like welcome jealousy in your life. Jealousy is a great
Yeah.
indicator of the things that you want to create more of in your space, Also like low energy, that's a great indicator like you said of where do I need to change how I'm working with these people or these clients. And I just feel like the more we can cultivate joy in our life in all different ways and joy in our business, the more long-term sustainable that it is. And
Agreed.
I don't know if we were given a different message when we were younger, but I feel like I know so many people that do not put those two words in the same category. They don't think of work
Yeah.
and joy going together. They think of I go to work, I get the stuff done, and then I can come home and do the things that sound fun to me. And I'm just not, as an entrepreneur, I do not subscribe to that belief. I'm with
Yeah.
you. If it's not fun, then I'm doing something wrong. Where I struggle, Hillary, is okay. There's a lot of fun, shiny objects that bring me a lot of joy in this world. And it's easy to be distracted and
Yeah.
do 1,000 things and realize, wait, what is my job now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just for me, and that's such a great point too, because I'm also a do all the things type. But I found a good qualifier for me
Please,
is
please.
okay, do especially when it comes to the business, is it's figuring out, okay, what do I enjoy most that moves the needle the most?
Oh, it's an important distinction.
That's that's it. Because I will do what I just love talking to people. I love people in general. I'm
Yes,
just there to vibe. I'm just happy to be here. But I think for me, it's like, what's moving the needle forward? And
yes.
two, I think it's also what kind of joy am I getting? Is it just
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, this is fun, which is great? Or is it
Yeah.
like, man, this is deeply fulfilling and I find
Mm,
myself smiling doing
yeah.
it? Like ranking joy feels like such like a terrible concept. But really thinking about, okay, what piece of it brings you joy? Are you
Yes.
bringing, and the other thing is this bringing you joy because you're helping somebody or because you're
Yeah.
contributing to a larger creative project? In which case, if we're doing this for random reasons over here, how can we bring this more intentionally into what we're
Mhm.
doing? Thinking
Yeah.
about what moves the needle, I think, and also thinking about what joy source do you want to prioritize, right? You
Yeah.
know?
No, I love that. Those are such important distinctions. I also just feel like you could totally add your tagline. I'm a professional viber. I just feel like that is you. Also, I think
Technically, yes.
I can't even remember. There was some event you're going to in New York. It looked like a good time. I can't even remember what it was now. You'll remember probably when I talk about this. And I
Yeah.
don't remember what your language was, but basically you're like, "Hi, I am like the go-to extrovert in the room. If people don't want to talk to people or want to have a good time, come find me." And I have always said that in like my friend groups, in my family, in whatever room I walk into, I am the emotional support extrovert. If you want to go to
Yep.
the party and eat the snacks and say you left your house, but you don't actually want to speak to people or get on the dance floor, hire me. Like I have, speaking of shiny objects, Hillary, I don't think this will ever happen, but side business idea, I had this idea of I want to become a professional wedding goer, not a wedding crasher. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm invited. In fact, my services
Pushing
are so
wedding
important that I'm
guests.
paid to be there. Okay.
Yeah.
And first of all, I am ordained. So if they need me to marry them, I can. Okay.
The
Then
Reverend Kaya.
if they had a dramatic bridesmaid, happy to fill in or groomsmen, I'm pro that as well. I've been a flower girl before. I don't think that you can age
Love
out
it.
of that. I'm here.
No,
If you need
definitely not.
someone to mediate between your weird uncle and like your cousin Susie, and also someone to be the first one on the dance floor and to make sure everyone's having a good time, I can be that person. I would just love that so much. Maybe not the
For all
best
those
business move for me, but something to think
For
about.
all those listening, this is how you know you're talking to a coach to the core. Okay, to the very depths of your being, you are a coach, and that's how you know. Oh, you want to be cooking people at their weddings, which is the most intense time. But no, I'm so with you. I love that you brought this up. So this is actually the Failure Ball, which my friend Jess Manusik runs
Yes,
in
that's so
Denver,
good.
and it was the resident extrovert sash. Well, that's
That's
my
what it
role.
was. Oh, I
Yep,
love
it was
it.
I still have it. It's in my. She's not running it this year, but next time I will be there in my little sash.
Oh
Because
my god,
I
if you
still
need a sidekick,
also
I'm there.
please, there's got to be two of us. We need more. The event's growing. I'm gonna need a double, a second command.
Mhm.
But no, a co extrovert. Because the other thing is, I love that you raised the extroversion point. Because I'm a big time extrovert.
Yeah.
Almost all of my clients are introverts. And so it's actually
Interesting.
really fun. Yes, obviously, like Renee say, you're a big time monster extrovert like me. There
Yeah.
are a few, but I would say there are actually far fewer extroverts in the industry than introverts. Because I find
Mm.
most of the extroverts find their way into sales. It's corporate sales and just make killings and they never see them again. But I think in online business, I get asked this a lot because people are like, can I still have a really interesting brand if I'm not as loud as you? If I don't make jokes as quickly as you
Mhm.
do? And it's absolutely yes. The majority of the introverts own the internet. Introvert, Come on. It's not, are we not seeing the connection? It's all a conspiracy. But the interesting thing about being compelling as a brand is about ownership of that brand, ownership of what the idea is, which doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily have to be something obnoxious and loud. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to put on a fake personality. It's about the things that you nerd out about quietly or otherwise are a
Mhm.
key part of that brand. How
Mhm.
you treat people, how you love to show up, how you understand what's in front of you, how you describe things, how you see the world. All of that is so
Mhm.
relevant. You don't need to be a super loud mouth like us to make
Yeah.
that work for you. And I think that's what also holds a lot of people back from doing the bigger brand thing. They're like, I actually don't think
Mhm.
I'm interesting enough. And I was like, let me tell you, let me tell you, friend, I've yet to meet a non-interesting person and I've been around a long time. I actually thought about writing an opt-in once that was like incredibly interesting in parentheses on the internet. But just help people see that. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so with you because I think and also as extroverts, I think we've had to figure out how to temper ourselves and not
True.
be so much. And we're always trying to figure out how to not take up, not be so loud that we terrify people on the Instagram grid and
Yeah,
all
no,
of that.
sure.
It's really give and take, but I love that you raised the extrovert point because there are dozens of us, dozens. We're
Yeah,
doing good work out here.
we
But by
are,
and
we
large,
are.
the introvert extrovert does not make a difference in terms of
Mhm.
how compelling your brand can be. Even though that's not the question you asked, that's something I'm
No, I think that's actually so fascinating because 'cause I'm sure there's some introverts listening to this. Because one of the questions I also get from people a lot on the coaching side of things, I get DMs all the time from people. In fact, one of my whole keynotes is all about cultivating confidence. The question I get from people is, "How do I wish I was more confident like you."
yeah,
And what I
yeah.
tell them is, "No, you don't wanna be confident like me. You wanna be confident like yourself because confidence comes in a lot of different packages and a lot of different
Amen.
forms. We're
Yeah,
like the loud and bold statement piece confident people, but there is also a quiet sense of confidence. They're both confident, it just has a different flavor.
yeah.
So I love that point so much. As a side note, the other reason why I love you, basically, I'm just obsessed with you, Hillary,
Well, that's the feeling is
is
mutual.
your shared love of cats. I just need you to know that I'm recording this outside in my Yarden studio, and I have 5 little sleepy barn cats just all around me, and I feel like you would appreciate that.
If we were on a Zoom call, I would demand to be introduced. I think it's just don't you listen. It's disrespectful not to introduce you to the barn cats. I'm looking at my cat. So for those listening, if you don't know me, I have one cat called Ham. His full name is Hammurabi, but affectionately called Mr. Ham. And then Dolly Parton is our little gray
Oh
cat
my
who's
god,
oh
I
yeah,
love it.
big cat, and they're in love. They're like 4 years apart. We got Dolly after our other cat passed away. And
RIP.
her head is on his butt right now. They just
Oh,
sleep
it's
together and
so
they snuggle and they're best of friends.
oh,
I
I
love
love it.
cats.
I love it so
Love them.
much.
Every internet
Um,
person needs a cat too, I'm just saying.
I agree, I agree. I used to be a dog
Uh,
person, and then my husband converted me, and now I'm, like,
See?
unapologetically crazy cat mom. Can't be stopped.
Amen.
And the
Amen.
algorithm knows it. I'm not mad about the cat content that I'm getting served
It's
on
they
the
really they
regular.
really peg us as cat
They
people.
do.
It's get these cat underpants for your husband. And I'm like, I might
Like,
though.
you're like, "Actually, I'm actually a terrible gift giver, but I might need to get my husband some of those. I think he'd actually really enjoy that."
He should. I have so Ham is my husband's cat. I call him my
Yeah.
husband's familiar because they're like best friends.
Oh,
They
sweet.
sense each other's moods. It's very sweet. But he has socks with Mr. Ham's face on them,
Oh
which
gosh, I love it.
was searched up to me on an Instagram ad.
It's
Advertising
marketing,
works,
man.
people.
It
You
does,
heard
it
it here
really does
first.
work. Hillary, one of the questions that I like to ask everybody that comes on the show is called climbing, and it's a metaphor for life of climbing the mountains of life. Lots of highs, lots of lows. And I'm curious right now in this season of your life or your career, business, what is a mountain that you're currently climbing?
Oh, this is such a great question. For me, it's like the what's next mountain, I think. And I
Mhm.
don't realize that makes a lot of sense. But I would say what's really wonderful at this point is I have achieved what I've wanted to achieve in terms of what I want the
Mhm.
business to look like. We've got really wonderful, a very small group of positioning, consulting, and coaching clients. I have some incredible full suite creative direction clients going on. And now we've done incredibly well this year. We cleared something like 500, well, close to 500K in sales. Just that's booked
Wow.
business, by the way,
Yeah.
not profit, but so far. So we've done really well. And so I'm actually slowing down in August just to figure out like, what do I actually want next?
Mm.
Because there's so many different ways we can go, which is
Yeah.
really, it's a thrill. I'm so happy to be here. And I think for me, the mountain I'm climbing also is the hard question you actually have to ask yourself, because we're seeing this happen across the industry, is these huge seven-figure, multi-seven-figure companies are either shutting down or
Mhm.
firing their entire teams and
Mhm.
streamlining. Just because
Mhm.
I think if in the 2020 and 2021 scale apocalypse, where everybody was just like everyone was growing so fast, hiring huge teams and all of this, they've now doubled back and pared down because you
Yeah.
get to a certain point where you're like, is it even worth it? Yes, we're making this much money in revenue, but what's my take home? I have this sprawling team. It's stressing me out to run this huge community and blah, blah, blah. So for me, I'm trying to think through what's next before I get there because
Mm.
if my MO is only growth, then I've already lost. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I can always grow, but it's got to mean something. And so in terms of my battle, I think for me, my mountain, it's what happens next, but also I want to come back to myself as a creative a little bit. I
Ooh,
wrote a mini
yeah.
book, which is hopefully coming out soon. But one thing I've been
Exciting.
reflecting on, oh yes. So it's a little mini book. It's only 4 chapters. Hilariously, it's been delayed from publication because my sister, God bless her, my PhD ass sister marked it up to hell.
Ah,
My sister's not in the industry, but I still have to go through it with her until I send it because I'm like, now I got to look at it. She's like, you need to learn how semicolons work. And I'm like, ma'am, and why right? So we don't need semicolons. It's M dashes all the way. But I think for me, just because, so my first love was writing, and I'm so lucky to be able to do the creative work that I do. But I think one of the things that really feeds my soul that goes neglected over periods where I'm pushing hard with the business is just doing purely creative things for purely creativity's
reason.
sake.
Yeah.
I didn't want to write a business book, but I ended up writing a book about, technically about personal branding. But what it's called is Trust Your Talent, a personal branding primer for exceptional creatives. And it's
Ooh.
all about starting to understand why the way things really matters and is the crux of how you should be making decisions. And and that is actually not even, I didn't want to write a workbook. I didn't want to write a how to. So they're just 4 stories. And I'm just like, here's some things to think about. Here's a funny story. And here's a thing to think about. Anyway, the next chapter. So that felt really good. But for me, I'm just like, I think my Instagram stories are such a wonderful creative outlet for me where I just talk
I
about my deep,
love
it's
them.
very silly. Thank
I
you.
love them
Thank you.
so much.
Yeah, I just talk about random stuff on my IG stories and so I'm also playing with that. So it's like where I want the business to go. Do
Mm.
we head for the 7-figure finish line or do we scale back? Do I
Mm.
actually need, what do I actually need? How much is enough? And then in tandem with that, it's when it comes to my just creativity for pure creativity's sake. No one needs to see it. I don't need to sell it. I don't need to market it. Like,
Mhm.
what could that look like in this season ahead? So I
Mm.
don't know if that counts as a mountain, but it certainly feels like one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I love that because I have found myself as a creative, I feel like I've been losing my creative outlets for the sake of creativity. And what I notice that every time I see something that I'm doing creatively, I'm like, I need to find a way to sell this or I need to find a way to market this. I'm
Exactly.
like, wait, stop. Hey,
Yes.
you don't need to sell everything or try to make everything profitable. Like, why do we do that? Oh my gosh. I feel that deeply in my soul, Hillary, deeply in my
Yeah.
soul. And I also just think it's so refreshing hearing an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur, talk about how growth doesn't have to be the only goal, right? I think it's just
Yeah.
shoved down our throats of grow, scale. And that's great if that's
Yeah.
what you want to do, but there's more to life and business than just growth. So I find that so refreshing. Now I have a follow-up question to that question,
Lay it on me,
which
sister.
goes along with the tagline is in that climb of your journey right now, where are you finding joy in that?
Oh, everywhere. And I just although like a little, I'm just like a little kid with that kind of thing. But I would say like the deepest joy, obviously, I love the work I do with my
Mhm.
clients and my photo shoots and just bringing it to life. But for me, let me think, what is the most joyful? I think the most joy I'm finding right now is the conversations that I'm having with people like this one, of course. But the conversations that my work is sparking, the things people are coming to me with that I just really
Mm,
relish and enjoy. And I think it's the challenge of being at this level and having the specialty that I do, because it is
mhm,
fairly distinct. There's not a lot of people doing
for
what I
sure.
do in the way that I do it. And I think for me, I get the biggest kick out of just talking to somebody for a while in the DMs, just finding out what's happening and getting weird questions and messing around with people in my Instagram stories and treating, I think what it really is it's my community. Because I feel
Yeah,
like we're tight. We're like,
yeah,
again, not in a parasocial way, but I play a game with y'all in my stories and people participate. Like
yeah.
I make a joke and people laugh and add their own things. And for me, that's really the joy is feeling like I have a real community out there that's like in the journey with me in a way that I don't think I've ever experienced before,
I
just
love
because I think I've been committed to visibility in the way that I have,
that.
especially the last couple of years.
So good, so good. Man, Hillary, I just have loved this conversation so much. I
Me
know that
too.
you and I could talk for hours and hours, but I'm not going to do that to our listeners today. So, where can they find you? How can they get in their orbit? Tell us all the things.
Oh, let me tell you everything. This is where I use my radio announcer voice. So,
Let's hear it. I'm ready.
so my site, before I get into the voice, the site is going to be redesigned soon. So if you want to take it in all of its current glory, please do so. You can find me on my website at hillaryweiss.com. That's www.hillaryweiss.com. Or you'll find me on Instagram at HC Weiss. That's HCWEISS. You'll see me on there as Hillary Weiss Presswood because that's my married name, technically Hillary Presswood, and I'm trying to ease everybody into calling me that. So come say hey. You can find me on Facebook under the same name. You could find me on LinkedIn, but I spend no time there, so maybe don't. You can also find me on Twitter at HC Weiss as well, and I'm actually on TikTok now. Doing a little bit here and there at Hillary Disco. And if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can do so at hillaryweiss.com/subscribe or just catch it on the homepage. But for those listening, if you enjoyed this episode, I would love to say hi. Love making new friends. I don't bite. I control all my own social media, which some people don't think I do, which is weird. I'm like, my following is not that big, guys. But come say hi, shoot me a DM. Tell me something you took away from the podcast, something that you like, or a question that you have. I'd love to say, hey, don't be a stranger. I love making new friends.
Oh, I love it. We will make sure to have all of those things linked down below in the show notes. And seriously, do yourself a favor and get on her email list. It's gold. It's like a story time every single week. I love it so much. I cannot wait to read your mini book. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for just being so bold and unapologetically yourself and giving other people permission and empowering them to do so in life and in business. You are seriously such a light in my life, and I know the lives of so many others. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and coming on the show today. It means so, so much to me.
Oh, Kaya, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. And we will threaten you all with a 3-hour episode because I could also not get down here all day. But thank you for listening. Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a delight. Let's do this again sometime
I
with
would
the rest of
love
you.
to. I'd love to. And thank
Uh,
you, sweet listeners, for tuning into another episode of the Climbing with Coach Kaya podcast. We'll see you right back here, same time, same place next week. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Climbing with Coach Kaya podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please hit subscribe and leave me a review sharing what you loved most. Come hang out with me on Instagram and Facebook to keep the conversation going as we continue to find joy in the journey. Until next time, I am cheering for you, friend. Keep climbing and we'll chat soon.